2020, Bogota High School, 7 p.m. Can you please stand for the pledge?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this Act, the Bogota Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bogota Borough Hall, communicated by letter to the record, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Bogota, and posted on the Bogota Board of Education website. Irving, can you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Alvarez?
Here.
Mrs. Scott?
Here.
Mrs. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. McCann?
Here.
Mrs. Miller?
Here.
Mrs. Van Buren? Ms. Montgomery?
Here.
Mrs. Coles?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Also present is Mr. Kennedy, Superintendent. Carolyn Chaudhry is our Board Attorney. Mr. Epsel is our Board Administrator, and Elizabeth Ruiz is our Assistant Board Secretary. Okay, at this time, can I have a motion to open up to public comments? Pat, seconded by Eileen. All in favor? Okay, at this time, if anybody would like to come forward, public comments on agenda items only. Okay, no one coming forward. Can I have a motion to close? Pat, seconded by Eileen. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Mr. Kennedy?
Okay, a couple things. First, board opening, we do have one. Just a reminder that applications are due by 4 p.m. on February 19th. CVS, the CVS was selling Bogota items. We looked into it. Right now, we are not trademarked. After speaking to attorneys, it would be over $10,000 just to look into it on top of attorney fees. We have received 2 checks from the company that did say it. It's not a lot of money, about $350 between the 2 checks, I believe, is somewhere in there. So at this point in time, we're going to have to sit down and talk about what we want to do. We want to trademark these items and not let anyone sell anything that says Bogota except us, and we would have complete control over it. But that was the recommendation from the attorney, so that'll be something that I think we have to sit and discuss. National Junior Honor Society ceremony is this Thursday at 6:30 in the auditorium. That's for our 7th and 8th grade Honor Society. Also, Bixby windows are slated to be delivered the week of February 24th, and we're hoping installation will begin in March, in early March. And then at this time, we have Solutions Architect here, and Frank's going to come up and give a presentation on our building audit that they completed that really gives a thorough presentation of the state of the buildings and over the next 5 years some of the recommendations that he has made that we should be looking into to keep our buildings updated.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all. So what we're presenting here is an overview, a broad overview of the facilities audit that was done this past summer. The 2 binders that make up the facilities audit, Mr. Epsel has, and there's a great deal of information. The intent of an audit like this is to make our districts more proactive in their approach to dealing with facilities and facilities operations and facilities upkeep. So in looking at the district and throughout the summer, a number of visits, our team of architects, engineers, consultants visited the schools, the high school, Bixby, Steen, to evaluate the facilities for long-range planning, current conditions, and with respect to health, safety, and general educational adequacy of the facilities. So with a report like this and information that it provides, we need to provide some ground rules. This report represents to you a starting point. It's not an end point. It's not a list of projects that we need to do or have to do. It's a beginning. It's an overall broad stroke of what these facilities need. Overall view of your facility's health. It's not a complete list of new projects. The priorities that we list in the report are our recommendation. But, in a vacuum, our professional opinion is one thing. But looking at it through the board's input, that's another. We may change priorities. Things that are a priority to us or are shown lower on a priority list to us may be a higher priority to you just because of, a local issue. This one's got two asterisks next to it because everybody tends to take a look at the pricing and get sticker shock. These are budgetary estimates and they're not final costs. These are, again, broad stroke, high-level numbers that this report is intended to look at 5 years. So our numbers included in here have escalators on, multipliers, things, because we don't know when this work is going to be done. So they're not final costs. When we decide as a group that we're going to go through with a project, we're then going to sit down, take the numbers we have, take the project, actually go do detailed look at the project and come up with real numbers. This is just broad stroke, order of magnitude stuff. The amount of work that's listed in this report could never be completed under the annual budget. It's just a fact. This report lists everything that we could possibly conceive as a deficiency or a problem or something that you might want to do. So this report, again, is a starting point. We use this report in a lot of our districts come February, January, to sit down and start looking at budget numbers for the upcoming year. What projects can be tackled? And then we update it and cross them all. So in terms of the facilities health check, we've broken it down into some district concerns. So the big piece of this is throughout every school, we've got some concerns. ADA compliance, sealing the exterior envelope of the buildings. The exterior envelope is the brick, the masonry, the windows, the roof, anything that will allow water infiltration, air infiltration, those kinds of things that could cause more problems in the building. Safety and security, high priority. Site walkway upgrades, another priority. And again, a lot of these have to do with liability. They have to do with issues that we need to address. Replacing damaged and deteriorated flooring. Mechanical, electrical, and plumbing infrastructure. It's always a big item in any of these reports. Boilers, roofing, and toilets, also big issues. Your district is not the only district that has these issues. At the high school, similar items, ADA compliance, outdated programs, science labs need upgrades, media center, locker rooms, safety and security items, doors and hardware, simply from a security standpoint. MEP infrastructure, boilers, lighting, flooring, and toilets. These are all concerns at the school districts. Another look at school capacity. Roy Bixby, we try to look at these buildings and say, okay, the building's X amount of square feet based on the DOE standard. How many kids should be in this building? And we kind of did a broad general number. Now, there are other ways to look at capacity, and the DOE's long-range plan does that, and when we update that, that is part of that process. Same thing for SNEAD in terms of capacity in high school. So the report, in general, looks at categories. So the categories you see on the left, health and safety, code compliance, building envelope, building improvements, site improvements, mechanical and plumbing, electrical and fire safety, and then comprehensive maintenance, things that you're going to have to deal with every year. The priority listing you see on the right is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So each of these categories have a priority that we, based on our experience, provided for each one of the items. Immediate action or recovery remedy is required. Attention or remedy is strongly recommended. Attention or remedy is strongly recommended as desired or as the budget allows. And then the final has more to do with educational components as to improve your facility's efficiency. It's not really a maintenance type issue. The components of each of the sections of the report are an introduction, the applicable codes that we use. So given this year, we used a certain set of codes when we evaluated the report. Next year, the codes may change and certain things in the report may need to be updated. The site and building description, a room inventory. Each building has a detailed room inventory list with square footages of every room every space, whether they're administrative, instructional, or support. That's helpful to you in the long term, because let's say you want to look at a room to change or look at it for a small group instruction. Rather than going down and pulling out a tape measure, you can look at that room on the plan and in the schedule and determine what size that room is. Now you have a complete inventory of your rooms. New reference building plans to scale, with showing the rooms and all the spaces within the building. Then there's the written assessment. So there's a written assessment that evaluates all the buildings on a number of components, and you'll see that in a second. We also established a photo assessment. So this photo assessment takes a snapshot in time of all the components around the school, from site to toilet rooms to mechanical systems. So you will have a snapshot in time of what certain conditions we found were deficient. And then the most important piece in this whole document is the estimate of cost. This budget list that we put together. And this budget list is done in an Excel spreadsheet. The Excel spreadsheet is a live spreadsheet, and it's a smart spreadsheet. So if we were to update a number, it would update the summary and the totals and all that stuff. So as we go through these projects over the years, this spreadsheet will be able to be updated and recalculate the totals of what's left and what we've done. A couple things to point out. The information contained within this report should not be deemed as or interpreted as deeming the facility inadequate. We've been dealing with this for a long time. You guys have been upkeeping these facilities as best you possibly can. There are deficiencies, but it doesn't mean that the facilities are unsafe for occupancy. You have people going through these building inspectors, fire people. So the buildings, this report doesn't deem these facilities unsafe. And then for every project that's entertained throughout through this report, if we decide we sit down and want to go through a project, we're going to go through each of the projects, determine how much it's going to cost to do, put together a scope of work, issue a proposal so that you'll have the real numbers. So I wanted to, instead of going, we're not going to go through every single thing, piece of the report, but I want to go through the makeup of the report so you understand it. I know that the board has a digital copy so that you have the ability to look at it. If you do that, we can answer any questions you may have. So the way the report lays out is there's the introduction section. This is an introduction page, and it basically reiterates all what the categories are, what the priorities are. The codes that we evaluated are listed so you can see what codes we looked at when we did the report. The site overview and description of the building itself. It's a multi-story masonry building of X thousand square feet. So this whole thing is detailed. Here's the room listing I was talking about. So every room is categorized, whether it's a janitor's closet, a custodial closet, a toilet room, classroom space, and then a total gross square footage of the building. We then break down the building by administrative. You have a HERA plan that's in place. You have your fire certificates in place. So these things are listed in the report. We go through the exterior, and the little yellow highlights you see are our recommendations of things that we found. So there are recommendations for the brick joints around the building. They're in poor condition and they need to be repointed, and it's one of our recommendations. We then look at entrance and egress. Are all the entrance doors and egresses through the building, are they acceptable? Do they meet code? Are they in good condition? So these are things that we look at here. Throughout the building, we look at building corridors and egress. We look at whether there's enough egress. We look at the corridors and the conditions of them. We look at the building classroom, administrative and support spaces. So we go through the entire building. There's a separate section alone on toilet rooms. We do plumbing fixture counts. Do you have enough fixtures in the facility to accommodate the students? A lot of times what happens in toilets is you take out a toilet to accommodate ADA, and now you reduce the fixture count, and then you have problems. Your enrollment's a lot higher than it may have been when the school first opened. It was designed for a certain number of fixtures. We look at it and determine whether there's a need for additional fixtures. We look at the facility. There's a section here on lead that's become a big issue in schools and water quality. So there's a big section in lead. There's a lot of reference materials in here to be able to handle and look through the lead issue. We look at barrier-free accessibility. Are these buildings accessible? Can we get to all areas or most areas of the building that's required? We then look at roofs. This pretty picture here you see with the multiple colors. That breaks your roof at this building down into multiple sections. Each section has a date and a year it was built, the year it was done, the condition it's in, and a potential cost for replacement. And you'll see that in the schedule. So we go through in detail the conditions of the roof and what things need to be addressed. We look at the site. We look at sidewalks. We look at curb cuts. We look at the, obviously we did this big project in the front, for the driveway and the walkarounds. So we did that for each school. We looked at all the ingress and egress, vehicular and otherwise. Then we get into the electrical items, electrical findings and recommendations we have for the panel systems, the wiring, the service, everything that we needed to do, you categorize and come up with a recommendation within the report. Some are good, some are in good shape, others need upgrades, and it should be. We look at the mechanical equipment, all the mechanical systems, rooftop units, pumps, generators, anything that's on site that we had to address, we've looked at, and we've said, this system exists, it's this size, it's 15 years old, it's about the end of its useful life, it should be replaced within the next few years. And on our schedule, that you can rest assured that that piece of equipment is listed as looking for replacement. So this is the written section. We then updated all the plans as mentioned. So you're going to see a diagram like this, coded by administration space, circulation, instructional, different areas, the gym, this is shared instructional space. So you're going to see this diagram and the square footages of every room on a plan. That's to scale. So you'll be able to see what these spaces might be, and if we need to look them up, the auditorium, math classrooms, English classrooms, Spanish, whatever the rooms are, this is all current room conditions. So you now have a current, up-to-date inventory of each of the buildings. This is that photo snapshot I was talking about. So you'll look at an image and it'll say the toilet room needs ADA standards. Both the sink and toilet fixtures are in good condition, or they're leaking and in need of repairs. This is typical of all the toilets on this floor. It talks about the toilet partitions. It talks about the boilers. Again, these are excerpts that jump from building to building. Roofing details, gas piping, different classroom conditions that exist within each space. What should be done? Lighting fixtures, ceilings, roofing conditions, actual pictures of the roof and the conditions. This happens to be a recently replaced roof. Sidewalk conditions. So there's conditions for every area that we found. Again, some good, some bad. VCT tile, we have ACT tile, 2x4 acoustic ceilings, lighting and venting issues, or leaks, particular leaks being called out. Again, more toilets, more boilers, so that you get a feel for where we are with the conditions of the equipment in schools. Urinals and lavatories that have older flush valves that don't have the most efficient flush equipment. Stairs that the nosing and the nosings are being worn down over years and years of people going up and down stairs. We need to address that at some point when it becomes a liability. Other areas, gang shower systems in a lot of the high schools that we deal with now, they're obsolete. They're being used for storage. They don't shower the way we did years ago. But what we've been doing is, in terms of renovating these spaces, is we've been providing stalls, shower stalls, not unlike a toilet stall. So they're used a lot more once these are renovated. But right now, there's a lot of expensive real estate that's being used to store materials. Again, outside the boiler room conditions, outside the parking area, window conditions, exterior stair conditions. So this report and this book catalogs all of these kinds of things so that you can see each of the buildings and the main conditions that will come out. We're including an excerpt for the budgetary costs so that you can see how it works. So on the left-hand side, you'll see the priority, and you'll also see the categories we were talking about: health and safety, code compliance, and there's a listing. Replace handrails outside classroom number 10, so the guardrail in the same location. Permanent egress diagrams at all classroom spaces. On the right, you'll see a quantity, you'll see a unit price, and you'll see a cost, and a total for the total number. You'll also see a year that we estimate it could or should be done. And again, it's our estimate. It doesn't mean that it's got to be done in 2020 or 2021. building envelope, and so on and so forth. Investigate sagging lintels near the picnic tables, clean and repoint the exterior grade, replace the roof area D in kind with asphalt shingles. So this report goes through all of these, remove 9x9 ACT tiles, goes through all of these things that we found going through these buildings and provides an inventory or a category list of the work that needs to be done. At the end of the cost list, we have a comprehensive maintenance program list, which your facilities department can use because there's always a maintenance program that's needed every year, maintaining grout, cleaning grout, maintaining and inspecting camera surveillance systems. And every year you have to put together a document that goes down to the state saying what you're doing for your maintenance and a potential budget. So this report was patterned after QSAC and the QSAC summary and the QSAC inventory so that this tool can help you with those documents as well. At the end, we've included an overall budget for soft costs and contingency. We put these numbers in so that you can see order of magnitude, because the costs that are in the chart are construction costs only. They don't consider engineering design or contingency for those projects. The Department of Ed will not let us go put a project down to out for bid without some sort of contingency on it. Their minimum is 5%. Most of the renovation projects we do hold a 10% contingency. And that's just so if we cut open a wall or break something open that we see what's going on inside the facility. If it's an unforeseen condition, we have some money to cover that. If the money isn't used, it goes back to the district. So each district, each school will have that same type of breakdown. And then the report, as I said earlier, is a SMART report. So every report is broken down by category. So this category is for Bixby, Williamson, and it's broken down by what's the number of health and safety work we have, how much code compliance work, how much building envelope, and so on, and totals the project by year and by category. We then also have a category by priority. So all those priorities you saw on the right, it's the same numbers, it's the same work, but we've said, well, what happens if we do all the priority 1 work? How much is that work? If we do all the priority 2 work, what's that work? What if we group priority 1, 2, and 3? What's that number come to? So now we have a way of evaluating the work that needs to be done, not only by category, not only by cost, but by priority as well. And these priorities may be adjusted. So the other thing to point out with any of this work is because we can't do this kind of work during any particular budget cycle and do the amount of work that needs to be done under the current operating budget because of the 2% cap. A lot of this work gets done either through obtaining debt. When you go out for a referendum or a bond, debt service aid is available for any work that gets done. And that's basically 34% savings on any eligible projects. Most capital projects are eligible by the state standards. So it's specific, it has to be done through a referendum or encumbering debt, and it's got to be tied to education and maintenance. But that is something that's available. These are alternate means of funding. The other piece is that there's New Jersey clean energy grants and programs out there that can support some of the work that has to be done. Energy savings work, anything related to boilers, windows, lighting, those things are available to receive grants through the New Jersey Clean Energy Program. That's not a state-run program. It's run by BPU through your individual electric bills. They're funded by every resident's individual reference bills. So these are other things that we could look at in order to accomplish getting some of these projects done. That was a real quick overview of probably 2,000 pages. But if you have any questions?
Anybody have any questions from the board? No?
Thank you very much for that.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's a lot to look
I
at.
ran through it that quick.
We wanted to make sure that we got through it, give you the high picture, but the document's there. If you decide you're going to look at it and you have questions, feel free to give them to Mr. Epsel. He'll get them to us. We'll make sure that we respond to the answer to you. Great.
Kathy's question.
What's our next step?
Our next step is, now that everyone saw here, we have to look at some of their recommendations for things that they feel we might be able to accomplish that we can fit into a budget, whether through some capital reserve, whether we have to go out for a referendum or a bond. But I think the board's going to have to make some decisions on what they thought were priorities, and then what do we think are priorities, and then we have to budget for them. So this is just giving us an idea of, you know, the next 5 years to start planning for some of these things instead of waiting for something to break. And then we say, well, now what? So at least now we have an idea of when some of these things might come up, and, you know, we can start preparing for it. So I think that's what we really want to do is look at this and look at their category 1s and 2s, and as a group decide if this is what we wanted to attack right away, and budget for and use capital reserve that we have, and, you know, plan out our next few years.
Was the building audit, required, or was it something you recommended? Or?
This was something that the Buildings and Grounds last year we talked about. We actually got it approved by the board, but after meeting with the architects so much and Frank over these projects, he recommended us that, you know, to get a true overview of our buildings and really know what we have. It's like picking up the hood and really looking and kicking the tires. So we like the idea of being proactive instead of reactive, because when you're reactive, 3 things happen and you're not going to be able to be ready for it. So this at least says, hey, these are some things that you can take care of. In the next 3 or 4 years, you might want to plan for this, you know, so we can start putting a budget together and not have anything sneak up on us.
Thank you guys very much.
Anybody from the public have any questions while we're still here?
Is it possible to get a copy of the report,
Do we have that? Will we have
I'm
that?
sure we can post it on the website.
even a condensed copy of the report?
This one, like, yeah,
It's like 7 files in Google Drive.
I'm talking about paper copy.
yeah, but I'm saying I could probably put this report up on the website for everyone to see, but yeah, you could tell me that a copy of that.
Okay, anybody else?
This is only for the buildings, or it's only the buildings, the school buildings, or also it's also for the fields and stuff, just the school buildings?
It's the site, it's the buildings and the sites themselves. yes.
Oh, okay.
Not the field, though, we didn't look at the field.
Oh, I'm just asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
Right, we just,
we didn't look at the field, did we look at 5, we didn't look at the field.
That goes from the corner. So that's a good question.
we didn't look at the field house or nothing down by fire down there, right?
So it's only the buildings.
Just the building.
Okay.
Yeah, already tried that. Scratch that one.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the rest of the meeting. We're going to move on to policy. 225-2001 to 225-2017. Can I have a motion? Oh, I don't need a motion. Any discussion? No discussion? Kathy?
On number 7, so that was the one that we, terms,
Yes, we need that one. Also, we need the insurance numbers. So
right.
Kirkland did reach out, so we're just confirming them. So I'll have them on for the next reading.
So we don't have to pull that, right?
No, we have.
Okay. Anybody else? No? Okay, we'll move on to education, 225-2018 to 225-2026. Any discussion? No discussion? Okay, we'll move on to personnel, 225-2027 to 225-2030. Any discussion? Kathy?
On number 27, is that, I apologize, but is that, are they a teacher or?
That's our master teacher. That's the master teacher. We just never had those. She had those stipends last year as well. We just realized we were about to pay her that we never named her for this year, so we just wanted to make sure that's all paid through the grant. But we have to have those positions each year for the grant.
Okay, finance, 225-2031 to 225-2037. Any discussion? Okay, no discussion. Do we have any committee reports? Kathy?
I just wanted to comment on school boards. A couple of things that came up, they set their plans for what their focuses will be, their legislative advocacy agenda for this coming year. A couple of things that were very interesting. One was on, which I think they're always advocating for, not really getting too far with, fair funding for special education and the outrageous prices that sending districts and so forth, and just some control on that. One of the things that I thought was pretty interesting too is they're looking into school districts being part of the fair share of pilot programs that them towns have been advocating that for that month.
I saw that in the paper. Did you see that? Was it Duma that was in the paper?
2 months,
Yeah.
they had a bit to do with it, and I was in touch with George Coleman up there, and we've had some conversations between some school boards representatives. So they're advocating for a proportional share of payments in lieu of taxes, pilots, which are approved by municipal government bodies to be directed to local education spending. So that's what this hopefully will stand here. And also looking to balance out a little bit some of the S2 that just went through, they're balancing out their funding for districts. That's put some districts in a real pit. So they come up with a great idea, but they don't fully look around the nation for some of the other districts that have that. So they're looking at a better balance. Fund distributions.
Thank you, Kathy. Anybody else? No? Okay, does anybody have any old business? New business? Okay, can I have a motion to open up to public comments? Pat, seconded by Eileen. All in favor? Okay, at this time, if anybody would like to come forward with public comments?
Mike Cutters, 101 Gray Street. The report was very overwhelming. I didn't hear a final number. I know the number for all of this improvement is obviously a crazy number in tens of millions. I would estimate just as a layperson. And I'm sure that obviously everything is based upon the budget for each year. But it would be interesting to see what that final number is. Not to scare people, because obviously that work is something that's been over years. The other quick thing I wanted to ask was, the council has retained the services of the grant writer. And the council is very willing to share the grant writer's work with the Board of Ed. And I do hope that the Board of Ed will take advantage of any grants that come your way, because it is for the kids. And they're willing to write grants for everybody. I know Mr. Chang writes grants. He does a wonderful job. He gets lots of money, but the free money is free money. And if we can get grants for the kids at whatever school or whatever facility or whatever dollar amount it is, I would encourage the board to, to obviously to take those grants and obviously not, not be willing to listen to what possibilities are out there. State Roots to School grant, something that we're working on. We didn't win it last year. We're hoping to get the person that did win it with Bergenfield, not Bergenfield, Richfield. That person actually lives in Bogota, and they're willing to help us write that grant this year. So hoping that we can get that grant, which is a big, big grant that would be fantastic for our kids, especially those kids who go to school. So I'm hoping the superintendent and the president of the board members would be willing to listen to all those possibilities as regards grant, because it's free money. So,
What's the name of the grant writing service that you're using?
how you put that spell?
You came on us like, now I'm curious.
I would say Billows, but don't call me. I'll get it for you. It just came out. Just came
It's
out
not
right
the
now.
same one that we had a few years ago.
It is, and it, you know, I mean, they make mistakes, that's the first thing they do. The bottom line with it, Amanda, is it's not gonna cost the board anything. That's the
So
point I'm
it's not
trying
gonna
to
be a
make.
shared service, like we're not gonna have to split.
No, the council's paying for it, the town is paying for it. So, I'm just saying, even though there were problems with this company before, you know, and they didn't deliver everything that they had promised, they did deliver a lot of money that we were not, you know, understanding in past years. So why not take advantage of it? I'm just saying.
I mean, because we had a sour experience with the last grant writers that we had, we were paying them.
I remember I was saying.
And we never saw a dime.
So maybe now don't pay and you'll get something, right? Because last time we paid and got nothing.
The
So,
town's still paying.
but we're paying, but we're not paying an astronomical amount of money for what they're promising. So, you know, we consider any dollar above the amount that we gave them to be a win. Obviously, we're not going to settle for that amount. There's a lot. If we win just even that one grant, safe routes to school, that's hundreds of thousands of dollars. So, and obviously it has huge benefits to our kids. So, you know, we want to be positive. We want to, you know, encourage them to get as many grants as possible. There's lots of sports grants out there. There's a million different grants out there. And they talk a good game, so let's see if they follow through. My point of coming up here was just to say, please, you know, let's not close the door, even though we had a bad experience with the same group before. Let's try to use their services to get money for our kids. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Mike, I have one question.
Yes.
At the last council meeting, did you approve the part-time SLELO?
Yes.
You did? Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, anybody else? Okay, can I have a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Pat? Second by Eileen, all in favor? Okay. Okay, at this time, we're going to go into executive session. Whereas C-231-PL 1975, also known as the Sunshine Law, authorizes a public body to meet in executive or private session under certain limited circumstances, and whereas said law requires the board to adopt a resolution at a public meeting before it can meet in such an executive or private session. Now therefore be it resolved by the Bogota Board of Education that it does hereby determine that it is necessary to meet in executive session on February 11th, 2020 at 7:38 p.m. to discuss matters involving litigation, and that matter discussed will be made public if and when confidentiality is no longer required, and action pursuant to said discussion shall take place only at a public meeting. Action may or may not be taken. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Pat, seconded by Eileen. All in favor?
Aye.
Maybe 10, 15 minutes? Okay. Am I right? Alexis, 10, 15 minutes? Yeah. Can I have a motion to open back up? Pat, seconded by Amanda. All in favor? Aye. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Pat, seconded by Adalia. All in favor? Aye. There we go. We got everyone on the books today. Thank you for coming. Okay, we're good.
That was good. See, I just wanted.
Anyway.